Hello, everyone. This is the California Freedom Alliance with your host, Alexander Horat, and this is actually part two of our climate action video. And this is a series of videos that we're making for the 2022 year review of the Board of Supervisors on all the major issues that they have voted on. We have my mom here, Maria Horat, and she's going to give a little bit more background on the climate action plan that she wanted to add that we weren't able to add in the previous video.
Hi, yes, I want to make sure that we understand what the work plan consists of. That is the portion of the climate action plan of 120 pages that actually got approved on November 8th. So there's a couple of things that I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention. Let me just bring it up here. So one of the things, okay, so the first thing, one of the questions that I have here, how does the climate action plan relate to biomass? They say biomass projects, such as the TBILC project, recently approved by the county that will be located on Camish Avenue in Sonora, provide an additional market for low-value forest products generated by forest fuel treatments and thinning activities. The pace and scale of forest treatments, both regionally, and we have to pay attention to the word regionally because the region that we're in now is the eastern region, which is part of 7 counties, okay? According to this agreement that they passed 5-0, and nobody was there at the meeting to ask questions. No members of the public were there to ask any questions, including ourselves. This was done at the end of their day. The pace and scale of the forest treatments, both regionally and statewide, are increasing, and multiple initiatives to reduce the risk of catastrophic wildfire and improve forest health and resiliency are in place or are underway and will generate millions of tons of biomass regionally in future years that will necessitate management of this material. Much of the unmarketable material from these forest treatments will be burned in slash piles, which will continue to reduce air quality in short term and increase in greenhouse emissions. Okay, so what we need to find out, what is biomass? So biomass is basically the use of organic material, wood, you could say old trees or dead trees, whatever that they find in the forest, and put it in this facility. The one that they approve is one that is going to be producing pellets. Okay, so the reason why we need to know, we need to really look into this, because on the surface it looks like, okay, that's a great idea. They're going to be thinning our forest, which is going to translate in hopefully less wildfires in our area. Okay, but there is more that meets the eye that we really need to be paying attention, and that has to do what are the disadvantages of biomass. Okay, so I wanted to bring a couple of articles. Give me one quick second. Okay.
And it's funny how it's the big companies too that are pushing this biomass in conjunction with these corporate public partnerships that are pushing these new biomass facilities, which are actually dirtier than a lot of things. Yep.
Yeah. Can you see this? Okay.
Yeah,
so this is an article by Inside Climate News at COP27. The US said it will lead efforts to halt deforestation, but at home, the Biden administration is considering massive old-growth logging projects, okay? So instead of protecting the schemes that protect forests to create carbon credits that polluters can buy to offset their emissions have been popular in the rush to the green economy, but they can threaten biodiversity and indigenous land rights.
And just one important thing to note too, like this isn't just thinning the forest, they're actually getting rid of really big established trees as well.
Right, and that is happening. So in Egypt, the U.S. Center at the COP climate talks in Sharm el-Sheikh hosted a panel Monday focused on ending global deforestation by 2030. But the reality on the ground in the nation's forests looked quite different. Just hours before the discussion, conservation groups related a report showing that federal agencies are considering multiple logging projects, including on about 370,000 acres with mature and old growth trees that remove planet heating carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The latest discussions in Egypt came after 145 countries, including the United States, signed the Glasgow Leaders Declaration on Forests and Land Use, pledging to conserve forests and accelerate their restoration to slow global warming. But US plans to log federal lands show it is easier to make non-binding climate promises than to keep them. There's a hypocrisy. They care nothing about our climate. It's more about control. Forests are a crucial part of slowing the buildup of atmospheric greenhouse gases because they have a potential to remove up 1/3 of human emissions of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, according to a 2019 report. So that just shows you the hypocrisy that they're telling you one thing and doing the other. There was also another article I wanted to show in relation to that. Can you see this one? Emissions and deforestation set to spike under Indonesia's biomass transition. So while we are trying to transition, this is a recent article, we're trying to reduce the amount of coal use in power generation by cutting it with wood pellets. It will result in massive deforestation and net emission surge, and energy policy think tank warns. Under the government, 10% biomass firing plan up to 1.05 million hectares, that's 2.59 million acres of forest, will be clear for acacia and eucalyptus plantations to provide wood pellets.
So this is just really exposing how they're not for the climate. They're worse than hypocrites. They're actually making the climate problem worse. And actually, wasn't there some studies done how these this burning technique for generation of power? And let me just be clear, this is for generation of power. This isn't generation for heat in a home. So those are two different things. But with the generation of power, it's not very efficient, correct? With biomass.
Yeah, I mean, we can study more about that. That there's actually a really good video everyone needs to watch. It's called Planet of the Humans. That you really need to watch that video because it has all these environmental organizations talking about how all of these solar farms and wind farms are actually doing more harm than good to the environment, and how the biomass facilities are used to make room for these farms to take place, which are not efficient. You know,
well, it seems to me like they're just co-opting the green movement to serve their big corporate takeover of America.
Right. So another thing I wanted to point out, I wanted to show the screen to go back to the actual plan. So it mentions the Community Economic Resilience Fund funding, CERF, which comes from the UN CERF. That's correct. Basically where it comes from. The purpose of the Community Economic Resilience Fund funding is to build equitable and sustainable economy across California's diverse regions. Okay. The goal of the Eastern Sierra region is to develop a regional economic recovery plan and prioritize investment schedule that will generate sustainable high road jobs. Okay, so this term of the high road comes from this other initiative, the high road transition of governance initiative, which is bringing equity, economy together, and then the high road jobs will be basically climate related, you know,
and also owned by like these powerful corporations like the Rockefeller Foundation, because they're funding a lot of
these. And they also mention it here. What does evacuations have to do with CAP? Okay, they just built the resiliency centers, one in Tuolumne and another one in Groveland, and they are funded. They haven't made even, actually, we're going to make a video about that, about the resiliency centers.
But we're going to make an in-depth video on that as part of our 2022.
So the Rockefeller Foundation is funding the resiliency centers, and is also funding the biomass facilities.
So basically, they're funding a lot of things because they got a lot of money from their whole oil and gasoline stuff back a while ago. So now using it.
So anyway, I wanted to bring that to our attention, and also another thing that they make it a point here is that they talk about how a new development will have to meet the threshold for the gas carbon emissions. So they have to not pass a certain amount of threshold in order for that development to be accepted, for the county to be able to allow that to happen. And that's just going to have a negative impact on housing, because the more regulations you place on building, the worse the homeless aspect, the homeless population, the worse it's going to get, and the harder it's going to get housing around here. And
Exactly.
to do that, they also, and we have to talk about that too, the low-income housing. They're building low-income housing on that.
For the Stanislaus Housing Authority, which is
that's a whole other thing, which we'll touch on that in a separate video. But I just want to bring that and urge people to look into the biomass and this latest thing from our government, Biden, talking about how they're actually going to increase the amount of deforestation that is taking place. And
yeah, it's true. They talk about protecting the rainforest and all this stuff, but then they're doing all this. Pretty funny.
So just more food for thought and more reason to be involved and really look into it. Just don't take our word for it. Just go ahead and do your own research on this stuff.
I definitely agree, and I would just like to say thank you for everyone who has watched this video. Please share it with your friends, and check out our playlist for the 2022 review of the Board of Supervisors. And thanks again. God bless, and have a good day.
Thank you.